Good
Good
morning.
morning, everybody. Good to see
Good
you.
morning.
Hey,
We have
everybody.
a long lost soul with us this morning. Steve's not here. He's I don't know if he's working or just being lazy, but Bill's with us, back with us this morning. So good to see everybody. And Jerry, you want to do everybody's names?
Yeah, sure. Let's see. We got Bernard, Digger Evans, Gerald Stewart, Grandpa Rails, Messy Basin, Otter Creek, Ray Bertelstein, Rob T. Man, Steve Childers, Stormy Skies, CB&Q, and Wigwag. That's what I see. If I left
Okay.
Floyd Robbins, I see just so that the participant list. It doesn't. Oh, there's Floyd Robbins. It popped up. Yeah, it's hard to keep track because keep Dave. I see Dave came in. DES. Yeah. Good morning, everybody.
Yeah, if you're not here by the
Did
time
you
we do
mention
the
Mark?
voting,
Mark's
it's too
in.
bad.
Yeah, Mark. It's CB&Q. Mark.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, we've already been talking a bunch of train stuff. Actually, not really train stuff as much as layout stuff. This morning we were talking backdrops and all that.
Yeah.
Going by what Dennis did on his channel Thursday.
Speaking of which, one of the things you hear quite often about a painted backdrop. I've experienced this, because I shared all of this. I shared the backdrop painting I did for the Time Saver, which was my first go at backdrop painting. And one of the more common comments that you're going to get, and even if you hear it across other videos, will be that you don't want too much detail, or you don't want your backdrop to be too good because it distracts from the real characters of the railroad, which is the trains and whatnot. And I always find that. Let me finish my thought.
Yeah. Hurry up.
I always find that statement a little humorous, because my thought is, if that's true, if that's a true statement, then why do so many people put beautiful, wonderful printed backdrops on their wall that has all of the detail that would absolutely draw your attention away from the characters and the main actors of the railroad? So my thought is that there's a balance, right? I think that anything's probably better than nothing, but I also believe that you could put something up there that was bad enough that would actually draw your eye away from what's going on, because you'd go, what is
Distract you, at
what
least
is
distract
it
you
would
from
become a distraction.
Yeah.
So what were you going to say, Jerry?
Basically the same thing. I mean, there's a lot of people that do use a detailed photo backdrop, and it looks really good.
Yeah.
It doesn't, it adds to it. It doesn't take away.
I agree.
I agree.
Because it's flat, right? No matter what it is, it's flat. So it shows distance, but it doesn't show 3D detail like your layout does. I mean, to me, it just adds to it. But at the same time, you could put a crappy backdrop up, and it doesn't look right too.
But I think a backdrop is just supposed to give you a feeling of depth. Okay.
Right.
Not necessarily distance, but just depth to what you're modeling in front. And I found that very true with my mining district that I had. That backdrop was very up close background. Even had an old mine, on a picture of an old mine behind one of them. But once I got everything else put in place and got some ground cover and stuff blended in with it, it all went together. It all bled together. But that's what you got to do. If you take a printed backdrop and you put it on up against a piece of plywood with a track running down in front of it, yeah, you're going to look at the backdrop,
Yeah,
But
so
if you blend that in, then it all becomes one.
did you put Steve Train Waybills up his comment? I'd rather have. Yeah, that's what I'm kind of leaning to. Like, I'm like torn between backdrops, and right now my backdrop is blue again, and I'm like,
But it's like what do you want to put forth for the perspective? It's kind of like what Claude was talking about. Some areas of the layout, and like we were talking, Dennis, with yours, you might have a scene where you want depth, and a photo backdrop would be perfect for something like that, as well as a painted backdrop, because you want to show what's going on. But if you're thinking that you're looking at it from more of a track level perspective, you're not going to see very far. You're going to see maybe a building. You might see a roof of another building in the background, a few trees sticking up above. So your backdrops don't necessarily have to be complicated or show that great depth. Like if you're rolling through mountains, when you're looking out of a train or looking at a train, what do you see? You see more mountains. You're not necessarily going to be seeing every mountain in the backdrop because mountains are going to be up and block your view. So backdrops I look at are view blocks. You give the hint, an impression that you've got more going on, but without needing to paint in a super amount of detail. Unless, again, you've got a scene where you want to show that distance, that's out there. And again, the photographic backdrops do a great job of that.
Yeah. Well, and I went that way because I wasn't confident enough in my painting abilities to get what I wanted in a scene. But I knew my backdrops were just going to be an enhancement of what I was doing in front. But it was going to add to it. It was going to make the front look more real than if I had nothing back there. And that's to me, but it was in my, in my layout room at my house, and I didn't really care if anybody else liked it or not. it was for me, so there you go.
Yeah.
So your backdrops,
I view my whole
blended from the foreground into the background. There was no line that showed separation. It was great how you did it. They looked
it was, and there's tricks you got to do. Like if you're going to put a tree close to the backdrop, you got to put it right against the backdrop so you have no shadow from any lighting behind it.
Yeah.
Same thing with a bridge or anything like that. Or if you're going to have a train, like Dennis is going to have a train going down in front of his, you got to have light hitting the backdrop instead of the train. Because if it hits the train too much, you're going to have a shadow going across the backdrop, and that's going to really detract from what you're doing. Or can.
Yeah, if you care about that kind of thing, right?
Well, yeah.
So to me, it's all a piece of artwork, and so if I end up with the shadow on the backdrop, that's not going to bother me, especially if I'm actually operating. Now, if I'm going to take photographs for a magazine or something where I'm trying to represent in the moment something that looks as real as I can get it, then yeah, you're going to pull out all the stops and mess with the lighting and minimize anything that could take you out of what you're hoping to represent reality. But as far as just operating the railroad, those things just don't matter when you're running the railroad, because you're doing what you want to be doing with your trains on the layout. That's kind of the way I look at it.
Sometimes backdrops that are super simple, like, especially if you got trees, and they're just doing like shades and colors of trees, and they're putting trees in front of it. Those backdrops sometimes they look great, and they're just super simple. They're not complicated. Like, I think we tend to overcomplicate things, You know, you got this look in your mind,
That's me.
and that's it, right? You're stuck on it, right? And unless you can get it, then everything else sucks, right? And that's, I mean, it's hard. I mean, it's really hard. I mean, I struggle with my tiny layout, right? I wouldn't even want to begin to think if I had a bigger layout like Dennis, what it would be like. It would just, nah, yeah, it would,
Well,
yeah,
like I did, I just went scene to scene.
yeah,
And where I knew I didn't want a backdrop that was 30-foot long continuous, I just put in scene breaks. So I'd put in a mountain, you know, in the corner and have it make, or a cut or something like that, where you had a eye break from one backdrop to the other. And then you just move from that scene to this scene, because that's basically what you're doing with the model railroad is you're going from scene to scene most of the time. Unless
yeah,
you've got a layout like Bill had on his HO and N scale back home, back in the States, those were all just one spot. But you really didn't have backdrops on those. So it, you know, it didn't matter. That was a different thing. But if you've got a layout that you want to convey traveling a long distance, it's hard to do that with a complete backdrop all the way, unless you paint it. And even then you're going to make scene breaks in a painted backdrop.
Right.
yeah, yeah. It's just,
Oh, that's not my mouse. You be careful what I'm grabbing, right? It was my this thing. Anyway, flat back. Okay, flat backdrop, lights off, night ops only.
yeah, you know,
There you go. There you go, Rob.
I saw somebody do that. They just, their backdrop was like black, and actually their trains were in their closet. Their backdrop was black, but it had like outlines of city scenes, you know, and they ran their trains in total darkness,
There you go.
like a purple light or something, and that was it. And it looked cool. I mean, it looked. I mean, you're obviously it's going to be a little hard to do op sessions in the dark, but I mean, if you're just running trains, it looked pretty cool. You know, it's like something different.
Yeah, and what Messy's got saying there too, that works. But it all comes down to what you want out of your layout or what you want it to look like.
Yeah.
And since you're the one that's building it and got to do it, then you're the most important one to have to deal with it.
It's kind of like the rocks, you know. I know that my rocks are a little maybe unbelievable, I guess, if you were to put them next to real rocks as nature created them, you know, they're not going to hold up. But I don't really care because I'm wanting to convey an impressionistic version of what reality is without having to worry about whether or not how this was created, you know, 1,000 years ago or 2,000 years ago. I don't want to worry about those things. I'm keeping them in mind because I'm watching Bill. And if I can do something that, okay, well, this makes sense, you know, then I'll do it. But what I'm not going to do is obsess about it, you know, and what I can see up here, I know doesn't, you know, like everybody's like, well, all your strata is laying down horizontal. You can't see what the finished product is because the finished product is up here. And so you can only see the pancake that exists on the railroad right now. You know, all I can say is that, you know, it's not going to look like a pancake. I don't know what it's going to look like exactly, but it's not going to look like foam stacked up. And I may completely change how I go about doing it. I just haven't decided how I want to go about doing it.
Yeah, come back in 5 years, you'll see the difference.
Right.
Yeah, I've been looking at model railroad layouts for 50 years or better. And I have yet to see rocks that were painted, whether they were plaster or foam or anything else that were painted, that looked out of place, unless it was just that piece of styrofoam mountain that they used to sell, that was a foot long, and those were kind of pokey.
There are definitely things that you could do that in any repeating pattern.
Yeah. But I mean,
draws the eye for sure.
As going that I stopped and went, oh, well, that detracts from the layout. That's, that's not real. That doesn't look good. No, because I know that they're just trying to make it feel like that. It's not like it has to be exactly like that. In fact, if we made stuff look exactly like it does in real life, you'd be surprised at how out of place that looks sometimes, because it's on a small scale.
Yeah, maybe.
To your point where you were saying, I forget what exactly you said, something about making things look real, was it? But when they
talking about me?
No, Dennis.
Oh, Dennis.
Yeah, I can't remember what you said, and
geographically accurate.
I get like your rocks don't look real, but in reality, not much on your layout looks real. Okay, like take like a locomotive, for instance, right? If you really looked at a locomotive, like the handrails aren't like this big, right? Like I mean, like it's like it's just it's a suggestion. It's not. This is reality, right? Your trees never look. I don't care how good your trees look. I've never seen a made tree that looks like my tree out back. Right? Hey, Steve.
Right, but I think for the fine scale modeler, the person who wants to put forth the effort, there's a balance in how much effort am I going to devote to any one thing that that aligns with your vision for your railroad, your time, your space, all of the things, right? There's a balance there, and what's good enough for you might not be good enough for somebody else. And most of us who want to represent well will try to convey as much realism as they can, given all of those parameters, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I want my mountains to be convincing. I don't need them to be geologically accurate, right? I want them to be convincing so that when someone looks at them, maybe other than a geologist, right? I mean, obviously all of our filters, we see things through our own filters. And so if you're a guy who has laid track for a living, what you see in a model railroad, you're going to key in on things that you are an expert, subject matter expert on, where if you're a geologist and you're going to see things that other people just don't see because you know how it should look. And so therefore I'm not working for any one particular audience.
I think Bill wants it accurate.
Yeah.
Huh?
I think Bill wants it accurate.
Well, I'll speak as the geologist viewpoint in that, when I look at others' layouts, I don't necessarily look at the geology and try to say, well, hey, they've modeled a fault or this or that, because in nature, nothing is the same. Geology is a series of definitions and hypotheses on and processes of how material is laid down or how it works and churns in the earth and what the end result is. But no two places on earth look the same.
Right.
So, if you're modeling a specific area and you get an approximation of what it looks like in the real world, then you've nailed it 100%. because you can go to the real world and look at a rock face here and go half a mile down the line, and it's going to look very different than this. And it could even be the same rock units that are, horizontally continuous. More than likely, if you're in a mountain, the rocks are tilted a little bit and you're looking at something that's older or younger, all kinds of different things that geology can work. But if it gives the flavor of what you're trying to accomplish, then you've succeeded. Then the geology, whether it's just flat dirt with some trees and grass or complicated mountains, as long as you're happy with it, it conveys what you want, you've been successful and you've got a good model.
Well, there's the highway going north out of Santa Fe toward Chama it's actually a beautiful drive. I'd been there one time and going up, and I don't know if it was the light hitting the mountains just right, but there was one spot there where there was pretty good size hill, I'd say. Wasn't really a mountain as such, but it was pretty high. But it was a rock face, and it must have had 3 or 4 different distinct colors in it. I mean, almost like a rainbow going across.
Yeah.
So, you could even have different colors right next to each other and could say it's real. So it's like Bill's saying, it's all different.
Yeah. Yeah, it is, and that's how it works. Different minerals, different ratios of minerals, oxidation, whether it's been exposed to groundwater and maybe dry. It all makes it look interesting and different. You really have to work at making your geology wrong. And I've seen some layouts that are like that. And it's more where somebody gets like the rock molds from Woodland Scenics, and they just sort of make one mold and then stick it here, and then there's another one stuck here and another one stuck over here. Nothing that would sort of make them continuous, and the other things in between, and it just doesn't look right. So there's some of that that's out there, but most times guys and gals are pretty good about making it continuous. If you've got some rock castings here and here, you put a lot of trees in between to kind of hide the ground and make it look like it's supposed to be there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I understand what you're saying, Bill, because I kind of ran into that with mine, because I was using those rock molds. And the further I went into it, the more I thought, okay, I've got to change these some. I didn't even want to use the same mold repetitively because that's not what you see in nature. And there were some places where I wasn't happy with what I did in that regard, but what I did was I put more vegetation in around it, stuff like that. So maybe it was just a small exposed rock as opposed to a full face of rock.
Yeah, have it peeking out through the trees and different things. Yeah, there's all kinds of different ways, and like I said, it just takes effort to really screw it up.
Yeah.
You can only turn that mold so many times to make it look different.
Right.
Yeah. Well,
especially if you're the person who's putting it on, once you see it, you can't unsee it. And it shows up everywhere on the railroad. And you're like, and then when you're looking at other people's railroads, if you've used that rock mold, you'll go, oh, hey, there's that.
Rock mold.
Yeah. Well, what I did was I'd break them up. I'd pour the mold, and then some of them, especially the thin ones, I just take them and just put them on the table and hit them in my hand and just break them into smaller pieces. Because the small rock molds I had, the ones that were little bitty pea size, didn't look real at all. They just looked like blobs of plaster. But breaking them up helped a lot. And some of them I broke them in two and just set them on the face because that made it look like a natural break. But then it also helps with how you paint it as to what it's going to look like too. That helps a bunch.
So here's the takeaway from it all. You can make this as complicated as you want or as easy as you want.
Yeah.
It's up to you.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And
that's definitely
that's
individualized.
That is true with everything. Everything is that way. I talk about woodworking a lot. I used to talk about it more but think about the things that they made in the 1700s and 1800s with bare, simple tools, and those things are still with us, right? They're still with us. I mean, if you're lucky enough to have something that's been in your family for generation after generation, a piece of furniture built in the 1800s, I bet you it's still.
My house is full of antiques that my wife's had for ever since. She started collecting antique furniture probably when she was in her early 20s. So our house is full of old antiques. And you're right, Jerry. The craftsmanship, was, built to last. I mean, it was really an art form, and and every one is one of a kind. You'll never find another one exactly like it.
Yeah, it's just simple. You make it as simple as you want it to be, right? I mean, you don't need all fancy things to do things. I mean,
and if you're making a smaller layout, backdrops, do you really need backdrops? If you're taking a lot of photography, then yes, like we were talking earlier about my N scale and HO scale, I used pink foam board, painted it blue, made them reversible so I could use them as backdrops, but I used it specifically as I was doing filming, and if I'm switching on one side of the layout, at least I've got something that gives me that continuity on the other side. They didn't go back far, tree line, a few small building flats put on, but it wasn't complicated. It was straightforward and simple, and it added to what I felt was the overall effect of the layout. Same with the N scale. I put it on when I'm doing filming because I've got to get more mountains and a little bit of distance, not a lot, but it just gives that forced perspective. So backdrops are fun. Just if you're running, a 4x8, maybe backdrop isn't going to be something that you want. Maybe you'd have a scene divider, running through the center of the layout to kind of give you some of that sense of distance. But again, there's just many different ways a person can do it. It depends upon each individual layout and what everybody's wanting to accomplish.
Yeah, exactly. Because I'm still debating on whether or not I'm going to put in a scene divider on what I'm getting ready to do. I haven't decided that yet because I haven't even decided on a track plan yet. But I'm going to hold that option open because I've seen a lot of small layouts with a central backdrop scene divide that looked really good, and really made the layout look a lot bigger than it physically was.
Yeah.
It gives it that feeling of being bigger. It's not really any bigger at all, but it gives that feeling of being bigger. But anyway, I think backdrops make a huge difference personally, but it's not to say that it's for everybody or that everybody has to have one. Anyway, what's the next subject we're going to talk about? That one went 30 minutes or almost.
Yeah,
pretty good for us.
Is that horse been beaten well enough?
Well, yeah, but we'll beat it again at some point. I'm sure we usually do. I know I've repeated myself way too many times on this show.
Yeah. I do have this.
Uh-oh.
Oh yeah, that's cool. That looks nice.
Oh, looking good. Yeah.
Is that a kit or scratch built?
Kit.
Yeah, that's Wild West, isn't it?
Yeah, Wild West Models Atlantic Cable Mine. And I have got the video 98% complete. I only cover the building in it because I'm still not finished with the ore bins, which is a whole nother subject we could probably delve into.
Was that kit that you were trying to do either scratch built ore bins or?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So, kind of with the same theme of what we're talking about, reality versus technical, whatever it is, how nitty gritty do we want to get on things? I've had a couple people tell me that well, this ore bin doesn't hold enough ore for 4 cars at the mine, right? So
Yeah.
therefore, it's not believable.
Yeah.
And my thought, of course, I'm not an expert, right? And that's the whole thing is you get experts like we were talking earlier who their filters for whatever it is keys in on the things that they know a lot about. And so therefore they get pulled out of reality based on what they see. But my thought on this is that if it takes, a week to fill this up, X number of times to get 4 cars worth of ore out of it,
right?
Isn't that something that they would have done? I don't know.
Yeah.
Or would they have never, would the railroad itself not have requested 4 cars because the cars would have sat there too long to fill it up, given the capacity of, the mine's capacity should fall in line with this, which then should also fall in line with the number of cars requested.
Well, it's also
I don't know that I care.
It's also going to depend on what was the railroad's ability to haul 4 cars full of ore. Because you get up into Red Mountain in Colorado on the narrow gauge up through there, and I'm sure they weren't pulling 4 cars full of ore. Because they're coming down switchbacks. So you had to keep your trains to lengths that were manageable in a switchback. Plus you had the weight. And if you got too much weight with those early locomotives,
right. But I don't have a switchback, anyway. Right. I don't have a switchback. So is that, I don't know, it's just, again, it's one of those things because I've looked, I wouldn't mind parking another one of these right beside it. That would be fine. I'd have to, I think, reach out to Wild West Models specifically and request, because this only comes with the kit. You can't order it separately, apparently.
Could you scratch build a copy of it?
I could, but it wouldn't. I think my scratch build would look significantly different than this. Enough so that it probably wouldn't satisfy me.
Thing, right? You could scratch build it, right, and say, "Hey, the mine built this," and
yeah.
And they decided it wasn't good enough. We needed the upgrade, and this is the upgrade. I mean, there's a lot you could do.
It could have been where they were dropping the ore cars off, even, and you're filling one up, and then they've got some way of moving that car down, which that could happen. They could have had a tow cable or anything like that to move the car down one car and fill another car up before an engine picks it up. There's all kinds of ways they could have done it in the mining areas. Reminds me, I need to look for a DVD that I got a dentist that's got a bunch of different pictures of mines and stuff. Might come in helpful with stuff around the mine. Not the mine itself necessarily, but stuff around the mine.
Yeah.
But I'll try to remember to get that together, have for you when you come. Uh-oh, who's tooting?
Yeah, what's that?
It's the chair.
Oh, it's
me.
Okay.
Steve,
I don't quite that high pitch, but
It sounds like a little peanut whistle.
Steve, are you in the hotel?
I am. I'm not awake yet.
Did you just wake up, I guess?
Yeah, I woke up just long enough to get a cup of coffee and look at the time, and it's like, sorry.
Wake up!
When he fell asleep again.
Well, my phone is propped up on a thing of paper towels and an empty coffee cup, so that's my stand. But
Are you bus driving?
Oh yeah, yeah. Okay. 14 hours yesterday. And what it is it's regional finals for the swim team, so they got 12 to 14 schools up here in Cottage Grove. So it was an overnight. So I left Grants Pass yesterday at 8:30 and
AM?
AM. Yeah, and picked. Then they were done. We got up here and dropped them off, and they were done at, I don't know, almost 11 last night. And we're like 2 miles from the school, so picked them up and came back, and I got to sleep about midnight last night, and then woke up just in time for the show. And then I'm not sure what I think. I think he said the starts again today at 1 o'clock, but checkout here is at 11. So I don't know what, but it's gonna be another long day, all day.
So
And
are
then
you staying another day there?
yeah, it was an overnight. It was a 2 day swim meet for him. So I got my own. I got my own room. It's not too bad. I mean, they just painted it, so it kind of stinks. But
You won't be back home till Sunday?
no, late tonight.
Oh, late tonight. Okay.
Probably very late tonight. Probably another 14, 15 hour day. But yeah, I'm
Just driving?
huh?
14 hours just driving?
No, 14 hours on duty. It takes about 2 hours to drive up here from Grants Pass.
Oh, okay.
So driving time. It's not much. It's mostly sitting.
Right.
I would have loved to, because I'm in Cottage Grove again. I was here last week and it was 72 degrees and sunny, and that's when I went exploring and found all the movie scenes from Emperor of the North.
Okay.
What? That sounds like a little steam whistle. And
It sounded like a train whistle, though.
It did.
Creeping again.
Yeah, I'd go exploring today, but it's pouring. I mean, it's just too wet.
Stay in.
You've been wanting rain.
Oh boy, we're getting, and the snow's coming probably Sunday night, Monday, depending on where the low sets up on the West Coast. If the low, it's a really deep polar low that's coming down from the Gulf of Alaska. It goes all the way down to the Arctic air's coming all the way down to almost the Hawaiian Islands. Then it catches that jet stream and picks up all that Pacific moisture. Then that's coming in. So that low, they're saying that there's a couple scenarios. If the low sets up off the coast, and then it's good, there's going to be a lot of rain, but the snow levels are going to be about 3,000 feet. And anything above 3,000 feet is going to get dumped. I mean, the shears they're saying these shears are supposed to get like 8 to 10 feet.
Wow.
Yeah, and the Cascades are going to go, and we don't have, our snowpack is gone. I mean, I don't think we've had any rain since probably December sometime. I mean, our snowpack is gone. There's nothing. So we really need it. But they're saying if that low sets up more inland on top of the West Coast, then the snow level is going to be down to 500 to 1,000 feet. And that could go all week. So it all depends. So I and the schools panic if there's any threat of snow. So I want the snow because I like it, but if it snows, I'm not working. So
It's either one or the other. Bill?
yeah, but but I did get they were going to be putting a truck driver job up for bid here at some point in the future, which is kind of what I'm doing now. I mean, right now I'm a sub, which I like. I don't want a regular route. I like the variety. But she sends me on sports trips on the weekends, which so what I am now is a sub, then trip driver. But I'm going to be getting that trip driver job, so that's what I'll be doing, and then filling in if they need somebody, and I'm not on a trip. But the cool part is I get my own bus, so that's kind of cool.
You can decorate it with trains.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure they'd love that.
So, Bill, what have you been up to?
Oh, this, that, and the other thing here.
I know you've been busy.
Yeah, like we were talking before the show, it's like I don't even remember when I was last on or where I was at on the layout. at that point in time. But I'll show a bunch of stuff that I've been doing. Just before the show, Jerry and I were talking, and it's like Jerry got me hooked into doing more trees. So I've got a whole bunch of little, you had me there for a second, there we go. A little wire armature trees for end scale.
It is
all little scratch built using just the stranded wire from my feeders. I have a whole bunch of that wire, so it's easy to get. And just
used for the green.
So the green is a combination of stuff.
Stuff.
So I'm going to do a video of Build a Tree with Bill on how I did these. So the armatures, the wires, I put undiluted white glue on those, and then sprinkled some Woodland Scenics fine ground foam on that, let it set, and then after it had dried, I came back in with dilute white glue, soaked that up, and then sprinkled 4mm static grass on. Let that set, and then came back in with hairspray, sprayed that, and then sprinkled on more of the ground foam. Let that set, another coat of hairspray, and then just like the ground cover, the different greens, grass green, dried grass, those kinds of things, and some red to give a little bit of different colors and shades to get the overall effect on that. So easy to make. I've got like almost 70 or 80 trees sitting over here.
Wow.
And it didn't take too long. The little lady likes to make the armatures, so she was making armatures with me. And you can add more wire to these. So I've got some decent sized trees that I've put on the layout already, but I'll take down a tour here.
You tired of Thailand yet, Bill?
No, I like Thailand. It's good. Especially now that I know where I can get everything I need to do construction on the layout.
And you got somebody to help you make trees.
Yeah. So does the hairspray method last?
Yes. I've done that on the trees, on the layouts in the States, and no problem. If you got them wet, the hairspray would just wash away, but it sticks. So it's like nothing's coming off, and that's hairsprayed a while back. So it works really well. We were talking rock castings here a little bit ago, so I'm making some of my own rock castings. None of these are going to go on the mountain, but they're going to go in that little gorge that I'm modeling on the other side. In fact, these are just setting up. I just did these before the show. So these are going to be going in where my little water feature is going to be. So we'll kind of come over this way, and we were talking backdrops just a little bit ago. So I'm of the impressionistic style. So I've got...
and that looks great.
Yeah, and that's just the dab with the paintbrush, just to kind of give the impression that I've got trees. The ground in this area is going to be from about here, track level. There's going to be more hills coming up. I'm going to have another tunnel feature over here. So a lot of this will be covered, and then it will look, I'll show more as we get around, but I don't even know if I had any of this done last time I was on. It's been a while. So I've got probably maybe 100 trees on already.
Wow.
But again, the backdrop, just impressionistic style, just to kind of cover the painting of the backdrop. When I did the original with the blue and the white to give the look of cirrus clouds in the distance. So just a simple backdrop to kind of cover up where I'm going here.
Bob Ross would be proud.
Yeah, so I've got this, and almost all of the tree, well, not almost, about 3/4 of them are scratch built. So these are kit trees, but everything else is scratch built. So lots of scratch built trees. I've got some different scenic features that I put in over here. Still working on this area, but
getting closer to not calling it done, but calling it good enough for a while. Wanted to put more trees in, then I'll come in and glue this like foam netting down, and then I will build it up in layers to get me the effects like what I've got over here, multiple layers of the foam net, other foam, ground cover to kind of give me meadow look, mountain kind of look.
I like the rocks there where they're sticking up on end. That's really cool.
Yeah, I had fun with this. I've seen stuff like
you call that the pinnacles. That's seeing the pinnacles.
Yep, and this is like rocks I've seen in Virginia, West Virginia, in the Rocky Mountains when I've been around. So it's not specific for any area, but it's something that's common where you've had mountain building. So let me see if I can get the camera here. So I've got layers of rock that are tilted, and Claude, you were talking about different colors within a short distance. Same thing here, dark, kind of a gray. I've got some reddish brown, brown, white, gray, different colors. That's how rocks tend to look. They get stained different ways in different areas to kind of give you that texture. Even if it's the same rock unit, it can have multiple colors. It just adds visual interest. And then, I've got horizontal layered rock resting on top of the tilted rock. So I've got an unconformity, an angular unconformity, just with that. And then I've been working over here, like today and the past couple of days. You can see where I go from, kind of complete to styrofoam. I've still got a lot to do over in this area here.
It's nice though to be able to see the difference between the two, where it starts and where it ends. That's a nice I don't know what the word is. It's very cool to see a beginning and an end.
It's like a teaching visual.
Yeah.
It's kind of how I look at it when I do the videos. Again, everybody does it their own way. I'm not saying any one way is better than another, but at least you can see how it goes from, like flat styrofoam, the framework, to chunks of styrofoam thrown in, and then, it's been plastered, or it's in the process of being plastered, and then you get into the scenery backdrops, lots of trees going in. What I've been working on, like the past couple of days, is I had a Monroe Models branch line trestle kit. It was incomplete, so I only used a small part of it to build my little N-scale trestle here for my little branch line. Been putting in more of the base for the river. Those little blocks that I showed over at the start are going to be kind of spread around in some of this area here. There'll be a little water feature in a few areas of this. I'll find some spots, and I've got some like water from Woodland Scenics that I'll pour, not to have like a flowing river, but to have some pond and occasional flow. Like in my world, when it rains, it pours, and then water would kind of flow and erode down through here.
Hey, Bill, real quick, do you have to remove those things to work, like your bridges and to remove them to work on the scene, or you just leave them?
I just leave them. I build the bridges in. Yeah, I work around them. That's why, like this bridge, I will weather it in place when I get to that point. It'll be some thin washes of some black and gray and some rust in a few areas. My world, the bridge has been recently painted, so I don't have to do too much, just a light weathering, and I'm going to call it good. What I've still got to do is I've got to put my fibrous plaster around this styrofoam block so I can make a pier. Over here, I use the fibrous plaster to carve in place an abutment. I add more in over here to do the same thing. I will use like a popsicle stick to put in plaster over here to make a small abutment for this particular trestle. But it's coming along. It's making progress. It's just slow because I've been doing so much other stuff.
See, this is what years of experience of doing layouts get you, right?
It
You know
helps.
all the little tricks to do things.
The tricks to do things, and then like what Dennis was talking about earlier, you have a vision in your mind of what you want it to look like. So this is what I had envisioned when I started to lay out the track work and think about what I wanted on the layout, and it's coming to fruition. Hardest thing that I've had is finding materials locally that I can do different things with to kind of supplement, like building trees. So like this tree right here, that's a scour pad tree on a craft stick. Same here. So a scour pad work like I do the furnace filter trees, and then I've got furnace filter trees scattered in as well. And then I've got a few other types of trees in here. Over in here, I've got a lot of the wire trees that just kind of showing. I've got a number of those scattered around. So it's coming along slow and sure. And then I've got more of the big trees up over in here. And I'm putting like my trees in different areas. Up on the higher parts, I'm putting the pine trees. And down where I would have more soil, I'm putting the leafy trees, just kind of how you would see it in nature. I'll put a bunch of the leafy trees in and around this area once I get, more of this stuff done. It's fun. It's going to take me a long time. And when I go back to the States here in a couple of weeks, I'll bring some more stuff back to do more work on the layout, get more furnace filter material and some other things. But I'm having fun. And this whole area, each one of these tables is like about 18 inches by 7 feet. So all the time and all of the videos I've put out so far for scenery have only been roughly like 6 feet, 5.5 feet. Just takes time, but it's well worth it, and it's fun, nice and relaxing. What a great way to spend retirement. And I still have to chalk this up so that it's got like some smoky features coming around it because I run steam engines. But and the fibrous plaster that I make here, nice and solid.
So Bernard, Bill's still making his own Sculptamold. And
yep, I'm still making my own Sculptamold.
JP had a question for you, Bill. He wants to know how many times do you remove a section and start over because you're not satisfied?
I have never done that.
Yeah, I'm going to say.
And it's not that I'm never satisfied. It's more that I do it in small pieces so that if I want to change something, I can do it before I get too far along. Some guys like to try to get everything done at once across layout. I like to get the track work, get the bugs worked out, and then take a small piece and then build on that what I want to do. So if I run into any issues, I can kind of change up my process or my thought process, and then gradually work my way through. So I've never really, I'll take that back. There's one thing that I did on the old ON30 layout, and then I got some of those woodland scenic crinkle sheets for like scenery, and I was going to make a tunnel liner out of it. Yeah. And it was the worst thing possible, and I threw it in the garbage can.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, just because it was horrible. It just didn't work.
Didn't like it. Yeah.
So that's the only time that I've ever really gone back in and ripped something out because I was totally disgusted with it.
I just on a note, I think Bill's method of doing his layouts, and I've been watching Bill for a long time, and that's pretty much how he does. He works on this area and he brings it to almost completion and then moves to the next area. And to me, it's like that's a really rewarding way to do the hobby, because if you look at everything on a giant scheme, it's like you're never going to get done. But you have these little rewards along the way where you see you got done and you move to the next one. And if you want to change it, you can change it. If not, keep going. And,
Yeah.
that way
And that's exactly why I do it that way, because, you know, I like to take video and I like to take pictures and I like to have the trains run through a completed scene. But if I tried to take on everything, then it becomes unmanageable. So it's really take a little bite and finish it up, or at least get it to a point where it's logical to stop and to go to something else. So like what I've been working on over there, you know, I did a bunch of the scenery. Then I'm at a point where, okay, stop doing scenery. I had to build that little bridge and get it put in, because I built the bridge yesterday and put that in. Now I can go back and I can do more scenery. I can put in more plaster. And now I'm to the point where I can come back in and I can ballast that lower track up to that little water feature. Then I can come back in and I can also add in more of the trees and shrubs and ground cover in that little area. And then I will continue to work my way down the layout. So yeah, for me, it's rewarding because I can take it almost to completion. Now it's far from complete, even the areas that I showed, because I will get some like super tree material,
right,
and make lots of little end scale trees to kind of go near that backdrop to kind of help blend in and hide. But that's a down the road kind of project. I've got all of these other trees here I can work into different areas. So it's never finished, and I've got figures I want to put in. I'll put in, some animals up on that flat land, on that little plateau area. There's all kinds of things to do, but I can come in and I can run trains and I can look in that one area of the layout and go, yeah, this is nice, because it's almost done.
Completing one process or bringing one process near to completion helps drive the next process.
Yeah, keeps you from getting burnt out on doing, like, if you're trying to do all your plaster work, like on a layout like Dennis has. If he was trying to do all this plaster work at the same time, he'd be so tired of doing plaster, by the time he got halfway through it, he wouldn't want to do anymore. And he ended up getting burned out and not wanting to do anything.
While you were showing us that scene, Bill, I was going to ask you, how do you keep from getting burned out? And I answered my own question by what you're doing.
Yeah. Because if I get to a point where I'm needing something else, like the trees. So again, the trees don't take long, but I've got other stuff, like we were talking here. We raise ducks and chickens and all kinds of things to keep me busy. But if I need trees, well, I'll stop and I can make a batch of trees, be it the furnace filter trees, wire trees, bottle brush trees. I've been making some of those as well that were over there using coconut husk.
What do you consider a batch, just out of curiosity?
For me, about 25, 30 at a time.
And is that a variety of sizes, or is a batch one size? Just out of curiosity.
Variety of sizes. I make
variety of sizes.
Yeah, nothing uniform.
I've got a batch started, but I think I've got less than 12 trees at the moment, and they're all just armatures. Once I get the armatures completed, I'll begin the next process.
Now, Bill, I got a question on your batches. Do you do the same kind of tree in that batch, or do you do different kinds of trees?
Usually I'll do the same kind of trees, because I've got to set up my supplies, my supply chain slightly different. Like the wire trees, again, I've got, wire bundle or pile of wire that I bought at the local market for feeders. So those, I'll come in and I'll cut different lengths and strip off the insulation. I'll leave a little bit of insulation on the bottom, sort of as a plant point, kind of hold as I'm working. But I can add, many of those little cut pieces to make big trees, or I can add them to make small trees. I can make little bushes all the way up to, trees that are like 40 feet tall. In N scale, it's not hard. I can use the same process for HO. It would just take me longer. But then I'll work through those, and then if I'm doing something different, like the furnace filter trees, I'll get my furnace filter material, I'll rip it, shred it, batch it. Same thing with the scour pads. I will take the scour pads and use a razor blade to kind of start a place where I can tear. And then it's the same process as the furnace filter trees. The bottle brush trees, I can get wire at a local farm store here that's very thin. Use some contact adhesive and coconut husk. Spin the trees with my drill and, trim and paint and do the flocking with the hairspray. And I can make those very quickly. So, the process is the same as just setting up to do a batch of whatever kind of tree I think I'm going to be needing. It had been pine trees for a while. Now I'm doing the leafy trees. I'll go back to making more pine trees as I get more scenery done on that far side. And, as I'm working my way to the end of that particular table.
Well, we're out of time, guys.
Yeah.
Overtime.
That was quick.
Yeah.
Always is.
Bill, great to have you back on the show with us.
Good to see you, Bill.
Yeah, good to see you, Bill.
Oh,
Yeah, try not to let the time lapse quite so much between now and the next time.
I told him before the show he needs to start taking some naps before.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least once a month, which it probably has only been a month, but it seems like longer.
Yeah, and when the time there changes, it'll be a little bit more agreeable because it'll be like 9 p.m. instead of 10 p.m.
That's what,
And
3
I'll
weeks
be-
away, give or take.
Yeah, and I'll be back in the States. Like I said, 2 weeks from now, I'll be on a 17-hour flight from Bangkok to LA.
Yeah.
So I'll be back in the States all of the month of March into the first week of April. So I'll be back on more regularly for a while before I come back over here again.
Oh, good, because I'm going to miss the last two weekends in March. So it'd be good if you're here.
I should be able to come on if the show's happening.
All righty. Well, guys, thank you all for being here, and everybody in the chat,
Good
thanks for
weekend,
being
everybody.
here.
Yeah.
And we will have a good week. We'll see you next weekend.
See you later, guys.
Take care, everybody.
Peace out.
See us.